Hey, and welcome to another Podcast Valley Sunday. I am one of your hosts, Chris Paco.
And I'm your other host, Jeff Cameron.
How's it going, Jeff?
Super good. How about you, Paco?
Doing good. Doing pretty good. We're this week we've got I gotta say it's a bit of a different episode. Not super different, but odd different.
It's weird.
It's episode 43, A Coffin Too Frequent. Mm-hmm. Directed by David Winters, written by Stella Linden, and originally aired on November 20th, 1967.
Like, I thought maybe A Coffin Too Often was a title of something from around this time, and that's why they went with that. But that doesn't seem to be the case. I think they just wanted to be less obvious with their puns in the titles, maybe. I don't know. But Coffin Too Frequent, it is.
Yeah. Interesting. Already interesting. So we open up, the boys are all getting ready for bed, and Peter hits a huge gong that's on the door for bedtime, I guess. They're on their PJs, and Peter's in his classic orange PJs with the blue bunny on it. That's like going back to the Haunted Mansion episode in season 1.
I think we talked about it before. I think it's one of the Three Stooges' pajamas.
Yeah. So I guess they had to keep that going. So they hop into their beds, and then they realize they're all in the wrong beds. And they all do like a quick change of beds. It's cool to see all the stuff in their room.
Oh, for
and
sure.
how like they each have their own single little bed. Like Davy and Peter are beside each other, and Mike and Mickey are against the back wall. And it must have gotten weird when someone brought a bird home, though.
Yeah.
It's either one of us, all of us, or none of us kind of thing. Not three of us and not one of us, Peter.
Oh, shit, dude.
I'm just saying. I think Peter would rather like read poetry and sing songs to a girl than take her up and shag her next to his two buddies.
Pete, you're sleeping on the beach.
Yeah. Curling up with Mr. Schneider.
Oh, man.
Maybe it wasn't weird at all. It was the 60s. It was just like Peter hits the gong and you switch beds again. But I don't know. Maybe these are Blu-ray extras. I don't know.
Maybe.
So suddenly they hear like evil laughter coming from the living room.
Well, at least we know whether he has a sense of humor.
Peter says the only person that could be down there at this time of night is a burglar. And they all start to go to sleep, and then they freak out because there's a burglar there. And so meanwhile in the living room, there's this creepy dude whose name is Henry. His real name is George Firth.
You recognize this asshole?
I did and I didn't.
He is Ronnie from One Man Shy. The Peter episode where he's trying to get the bird and steals the portrait and stuff, and their asshole boyfriend is always fucking with him.
Yeah.
Physical challenges and stuff. That's the guy.
Man, he's changed.
He apparently aged like 20 years because he's supposed to be a teenager back in season 1 or some shit. Like, or at least the guy is like Peter's age. And he's some weird old evil borrowed the goatee from Spock kind of dude. I don't know, man. Yeah,
he's an interesting cat to go with every other interesting cat we have going on. So they see this guy, and he has a bunch of candles lit, and he's in a big red chair, and he's talking to Elmer, who's supposed to be there in spirit. Like he's in the room by himself essentially, and like he did a lot of work to like put like lighting those candles and stuff.
Yeah, like he just quietly set up this whole thing and then started just cackling away after he had a seat, I guess.
And he rolled the coffin in. Like, how much noise was going on upstairs? Lock the doors. If you don't want a guy rolling a coffin into your house, lock the doors.
For real.
Guess this is pre-Manson, so everybody still had their doors unlocked in Southern California.
Oh, man.
So he says Elmer is going to make him rich and famous as the boys sneak up on him. But then Peter sneezes, and Henry asks what they're doing there. It's almost midnight, he says. And he tells them that they have 3 minutes to get out of there. And the boys run upstairs, and they start packing a bunch of stuff and get dressed. And they throw their bags over their railing. And one of them, when they throw it out there, it just hangs in midair for a second and then plummets, cartoon style. And Mike starts to protest everything. And he tells them that this is their house. And Henry says that they agreed to be out of the house by midnight. It says so in the lease. And Mike asks where.
It's in the small print.
And Peter reads the lease, and he says he's right. And Davy says, I didn't know you could read.
I've been able to read since I was 15 years old.
Oh, dude.
So as the boys are leaving, this old lady shows up. Her name is Ruth Buzzy, or Busey, I guess.
It's Ruth Buzzy, yes.
Yeah. So her name is Mrs. Weatherspoon. And she says they can't leave. They need to be witnesses.
Witnesses to what?
Elmer's return from the dead.
And then the intro happens. Boom. We come back with like a creepy organ version of the Monkees theme. Which is cool. I always like that in the second season.
I think it sounds very cool.
Yeah. So Mike asks the old lady to give Elmer their regards, and they'll catch up with him next time around. And she says not to be disrespectful to those who have passed beyond. And Mickey says it's not the passing away, it's the coming back. And I gotta say, Mickey is dressed like every inmate in every movie ever. He's got like the light blue denim shirt, and he's gonna help Andy Dufresne collect rocks for his chess game later on. So Davy says that they're going to go out for sandwiches, and then she pulls a sandwich out of her purse and gives it to them so they don't have to go for sandwiches. And then Mickey says, well, he needs coffee, and then she pulls out like a cup of coffee and a saucer out of her purse. And then Mike says he needs to use a telephone, and she pulls one out of her purse as well, one of these old-timey telephones. And Henry says that his Aunt Mildred wants to witness the return, and the boys say that it's against their laws to witness anything. And they try to leave the pad. But then the film is played backwards, and they come back into the pad, and the door is knocked down by this huge dude, Boris, played by Mickey Morton, and he's pushing a coffin. Okay, so he brings the coffin in. The coffin's not already there. I thought the coffin was already there. So, okay.
This is an iconic big dude, by the way.
Yes, he is. He really is. And so Mike says that they'll be the best witnesses ever. And also, Davey is like super tanned, and his hair's parted in the middle now.
Yeah.
So
he's not really. I don't think you see it like parted that often.
No, it looks really weird. Not weird. It looks different. Like you notice it instantly. He has such a different look.
I think that's a popular shirt amongst the boys. It's not. I think it's the Valerie shirt. I think.
Oh, really? I didn't put that together.
But it's a beaut. And Luther Cram also wears this shirt. I think Peter is seen wearing this shirt once or twice. It's similar to the brown shirt with the white polka dots. It's a frequent grab out of the wardrobe for the boys.
Yeah, I wonder where those shirts are now, or if they're still kicking around like the Universal lot or whatever.
They got to be somewhere, man.
They do. And then it cuts to like the witness stand, and Mike has a sign on him that says witness, and Mickey has a sign on him that says prosecutor, and he's dressed in like the old school black robes and has the white wig on.
Yeah, another victory for Team Gavels, folks.
There it is. Yeah, more gavels. It's shocking how many gavels are in the Monkees.
Gavels all the way.
So Davy's the defendant. He's got that sign. And he says he was running away from the real murderer who was wearing a black robe and a white wig. And Mickey asks if he's in this room. And Davy said that it was him. And the camera goes to Peter, who's the judge. And he points to the camera guy to point to Mickey. So then the camera moves to Mickey. And he admits it. And he says that he was aided by Peter Tork, who says that the real brains were Mike.
I never should have opened my mouth.
Then back at the pad, Davy says that they'll witness things they haven't even seen. And Mike says, you tell him, Tiny.
You tell him, Tiny.
Weird.
It's so loose. They are loose.
Yes. This is an episode they've got to tread a lot of water in. Because you're really just waiting for the coffin to open up the entire time. Like, I feel like the script was like maybe 2.5 pages long.
For real. There's a lot of filler talk and just wasting time.
Yeah. Well, you need to waste more time. Well, let's cut to a scene with us and we'll put prosecutor with the signs and everything. And that'll eat up about 3 minutes, right? We'll ad-lib the whole thing. The camera guy won't even know what he's doing. So anyway, everyone's around the coffin and Peter sneezes. And Davy says that Peter sneezes when he's nervous. And Mrs. Weatherspoon says that he has a cold and needs some tea. And she pulls him away and takes him upstairs. And then Henry tells Boris to get the bags. And Mickey asks if Elmer is planning on staying and is told that at midnight Elmer will arrive, blow the trumpet, and leave. So then why the bags? I don't understand.
Yeah.
There's a couple dead ends in this storyline. So Mike asks, what about the trumpet? And he's told that Elmer was buried with the trumpet and he'll blow it to announce his arrival. So the boys try to escape, but Boris blocks the way because he's holding all these bags. And the question is, how'd the door get put back up? Because the door's closed now, and Boris knocked it down when he came in.
This is where we lose you, Paco.
Yeah, this is the one thing. I already wrote a letter. Don't worry. And so Henry tells him that Boris won't be happy if they left. But he's also angry that they're there. So, like, Henry was also angry the boys are there. So now he wants them to stay for some reason. It's so convoluted.
A little bit.
So then the boys help Boris with the bags, and one of them crushes Davy. And Davy asks, what's in there?
Boris's lunch.
So Peter's upstairs in bed, and the old lady has given him like 1,000 cups of tea. And she says that you have to force liquids in when you're sick. And he tells her that her cousin was sick, and they forced him to drink about 10 gallons of tea. And she asks what happened.
Well, the cold got better, but he drowned.
I definitely thought that Mrs. Weatherspoon was going to be in on it somehow and is trying to do something to Peter.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that was the route, but nope.
This is just someone throwing together a B story here.
Yeah. True.
Peter with some tea.
Yeah. That'll fill up a couple minutes. So back downstairs, Mike, Henry, and Mickey are leaning against the coffin. And lo and behold, Mike is wearing the green hat. When we were told last episode was the last episode we see the green hat. And now I've also read this is the episode that's the last episode that's the green hat.
I think there is a difference between the last episode shot and the last episode aired. And maybe that was the difference between the two. Maybe they're flipped that way.
Maybe.
But
it could be.
Whatever. There's the hat. We love it. Never going to miss it.
But it made us look like idiots. We announced it to all of our listener that that last episode was the green hat, and it pops up in this one.
Yeah,
I felt
man,
like a fool.
I got letters
like a damn fool
from the diehards that were like, "What about the hat?"
Yeah, you
so
idiots! It comes back
you know.
again in a coffin too frequent. But anyway, so Mike says so at 12 midnight the coffin's going to open up, and Crazy Elmer's going to pop out. And Henry says, "Really?"
Really? Really? Oh, I mean, that is correct. Yeah.
He's a scientist, and he's invented a pill to bring people back to life, and he puts the bottles of pills on the coffin. And
Oh boy.
Mickey says he doesn't believe it, but Mike says he does.
Well, I do. And I also get it. You see, he gives us the pill, and we believe that Elmer came back from the dead. We also see pretty colors and things climbing up the wall. Well, I bet you it does a lot of things.
And Henry again protests that he's a scientist, and Mickey says, a mad scientist?
No, but I will be if he keeps making those remarks.
That's that's a funny joke. They called in Carouse to punch it up.
Yes.
So Davy goes up to Boris, and he asks what it's like to be so tall. And then Boris turns around, and he doesn't even see Davy. And when he gets his attention, Davy tells him that he used to have an act with a tall guy. And Davy would say hi, hi, and the tall guy would say low, low. And for some reason, Boris, he can't speak. And it seems like an ongoing thing with Southern California henchmen. Like they can only grunt. And so Davy shows Boris the dance he would do. And they spin around, and suddenly they're dressed in plaid jackets and have canes and those weird flat-topped hats that barbershop quartets have. And Davy starts singing Tea for Two. And great Davy dance moves. You can see how effortless it is to him and how awesome it looks.
Yes. It's distinctly Davy. When he kicks in, just like instinctually, and then there he is, Davy Jones dancing. You can see a silhouette of that, and you'd be like, that's Davy Jones dancing.
Exactly.
There's nothing else like it.
Yeah, 100%. So then Henry gets all pissed off, and he tells Davy that no one can control his cousin Boris but him. And then he tells Boris to stop dancing. And Davy starts to get all scrappy. And then Peter screams from upstairs, and Davy takes off. And essentially Peter's screaming because like his temperature's getting taken or something. Like it's the shortest scene. It's him just screaming and Weatherspoon putting the thermometer in his mouth. And then we're back downstairs again. And
man.
but when we come back downstairs, Mickey's a lifeguard sitting in like the tower, and Mike is not a lifeguard or on the beach. He's got like a pith helmet kind of thing on and an orange jumpsuit. So weird.
Mike does not know how to dress for the beach. We've seen it.
That's true.
In the pilot episode, we're seeing it now. Mike has no idea what to do at the beach.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Mike, we're going to the beach. It's like, well, wait, I got to get my helmet.
Fantastic.
And so Davy, Boris, and Henry bang into Mike and Mickey, and they all crumble down on the floor. Peter's screaming for help, and he gets like a piece of plastic put over him, not like to suffocate him, but it's like a little tent kind of thing,
Like an oxygen tent.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. And so downstairs, Mike and Mickey, now they're firemen, and they're all wrestling each other. And Peter calls for help again, and then Mike and Mickey are dressed up like English cops, like bobbies. And then they direct the other guys up the stairs, almost like Keystone Cops or something like that.
I don't know, man.
So
just the prop truck rolled up, and they're like, just grab whatever, kids. Let's just see what you guys can come up with. It's like it's so bizarre and random.
It's like when the prop truck came up, it skidded and tipped over, and all this shit spilled out of it, and they just grabbed stuff as fast as they could before someone could catch them. But they had to use everything in this episode.
For real.
So the old lady, she has Peter in some sort of homemade incubator, and the boys get him out of it and put him to bed in his own bed, and his bed looks like a race car. And so Davy goes up to the old lady, and he says that he wants to have a word with her, but Henry shows up and says that he forbids Davy from talking to her. And she tells Henry that it's okay. They're such nice boys and respond well to treatment. I thought that was the part where she's telling him, like, they're going to almost like a Gelfling thing. They're going to suck their essence out to bring
Yes.
Elmer back.
Wow.
That's right. I thought that's where this was going, but it wasn't.
Way to slip a Dark Crystal reference into our Monkees podcast there, Paco. I didn't think you could do it. I think I just lost a bet.
I figured people were waiting for it. It's like a Monkees podcast. There's obviously going to be some Dark Crystal references.
Absolutely.
So Henry says that they're disbelievers, and their disbelieving may drive Elmer away. And then Davy calls him a crook, and Henry calls on Boris to whoop some English ass. And then Davy switches gears. That's a direct quote. And Davy switches gears and calls him a nice crook. And then he and Boris go through a bit of a chase. And then Davy picks up a mirror and shows Boris his own face, and Boris doesn't like that. And Boris also looks like he's perpetually sucking on like a sour candy. Like his lips are like squeezed together.
I can't handle you badmouthing the Southern California henchmen. Like they won the ABA championship back in '72. You got to stop. You got to lay off these guys. They're the best.
Not yet, they weren't. So then Davy turns the mirror on himself, and he really digs it and gets into his own looks. And then Boris uses Davy's vanity as a distraction to strangle him. But then Mrs. Weatherspoon tells Boris to stop. And Henry's like sucking on a napkin or something. He's got this like a napkin in his mouth. And he starts to whine that Mrs. Weatherspoon is always driving him away. And she calls Boris, and then they all leave. And Davy punches Boris in the stomach as he's leaving, and he hurts his hand. And then he tells Mrs. Weatherspoon that Henry and Boris are mean. Then he gets down to it, and he tells them about Elmer and the pill, essentially. Oh, my gosh. I feel like we all took pills before this episode.
It's like, this is some heavy shit for a kid's show, I got to say.
Yeah. So Henry and Boris, they're listening on the other side of the door. Davy, like, ratting them out. And Henry asks Boris if everything is ready to go downstairs.
Is everything prepared in the basement, Boris? Don't beat around the bush, yes or no? Good. Why didn't you say so the first time?
So in the bedroom, Davy and Peter are with his Mrs. Weatherspoon, and Davy says, so if Elmer shows up tonight, you're going to donate all of your money to Henry's foundation, right? And she says yes. And she's knitting like this big long green scarf or something. And then we see that Henry and Boris are still listening, and Davy says, it's the only way to protect Mrs. Weatherspoon's interests. And so I'm assuming like there was a jump in time there or something. Like we went outside and came back in because all of a sudden he's replying to the plan they have, but they don't want the audience to know the plan. So we just jump into Davy saying, "Oh, but we have to do that." But it's very weird.
By this point, I'm just waiting for a tune.
Yeah, it's 100%, and you know it's coming. You can feel there's a romp in the air.
When are they gonna get to the fireworks factory?
So then Davy opens the door, and Henry and Boris fall into the room, and Mrs. Witherspoon she's not there anymore. Like, they go, "Mrs. Witherspoon," and she's gone. So downstairs, Mickey's creeping up on the coffin, and Mrs. Witherspoon hits him over the head with her umbrella and knocks him out. So we come back from commercial, and the boys are sitting there with Mrs. Witherspoon, and they're saying that they want to help her, but she's got to stop hitting them with her umbrella. And she calls the boys angels, and Peter says they're not angels. And then we cut to the scene where it's Mickey, Davy, and Peter, no Mike. They're dressed up as angels, and they're jumping in slow motion on clouds.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
When and why did they shoot this?
Exactly. Like, was it shot specifically for this part? And why was Mike just like, "I'm not touching this"? Like, you guys can go do that.
Who writes that stuff?
This is not the first thing Mike says no to in this, and we'll get to that in a minute.
So we cut back to Mickey, and he says,
That's a trip.
"Sure is." So she calls them angels again, and she kisses Mickey. He wipes it off, and he says that she's a sweet old lady, and he doesn't want to see her lose all her money. And Peter says that if they get in the way, Henry will sick Boris on them. And Mike says, forget Boris. He wants to see what's in that coffin. And Peter says he needs to get his bank book. Mike says, "What do you need that for?" And Peter says, "For security." And then Mickey says,
Isn't that dumb?
There we go.
but I also don't understand the joke for security. I don't.
No, I don't think we need to, and they just kind of isn't that dumb their way past it. And
Yeah, exactly.
onward.
So Mike and Mickey are going to take on Boris, and Mike says that he thinks they should do a frontal attack. So Mickey pretends he's riding a motorcycle for some reason, and he runs into Boris to no effect, and he gets his head stuck to Boris's stomach somehow. It's those curls. And
For real, a lot of static electricity in the blocks.
so Mike is pumping Mickey up for a fight, and then he's giving him tips, and he throws him to Boris. And Mickey grabs Boris's arm and twists it like 3 times, and then he gets spun around the other way, and he shoots back at Mike. And Mike goes off to figure out something else, and Mrs. Witherspoon comes up to Mickey and asks if it's his head that hurts, and he says yes. And she gets him to cover his eyes and stick out his foot, and then she stomps on it so Mickey can forget about his headache because now his foot hurts.
This is a pretty balanced episode in terms of the boys' participation in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Flawed as this episode might be, all the boys get to do some stuff and get some laughs.
Yeah. And so everyone's sitting around the coffin, and Henry says to all join hands, and they do so.
I know why everybody joins hands at a seance.
To make sure they have contact.
No, because they're scared silly.
And Henry tells them to be quiet because Elmer will be there soon. And he says they'll know when he's there because things will start to shake and rattle. And Mike says it'll be his knees knocking. And suddenly things start to shake and rattle. And Henry says a trumpet will blow, and we hear a trumpet, like the ones you hear at the beginning of a horse race.
You know something in B flat?
And Mrs. Witherspoon, okay, also with Mrs. Witherspoon, she's just there to see, like, did she know Elmer? I assumed it was her husband, but then he just says she's there to witness this happening.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't care enough. And every time we talk about it, I'm picturing Miss Weefers. Why was she not available for this? Why didn't they just get her? I don't know.
So she says that it's Elmer, like the trumpet is Elmer, and Mike asks how she knows it's him, and she says he's playing our song. And Henry asks Elmer to say something, and a familiar voice says, "Henry, you are a crook." And he calls him out on stealing Mrs. Witherspoon's money and going to South America. And Henry says no. And the voice says, "Europe?" And he says, "No." He says, "Asia?" He's like, "No."
Well, you should do something with the money. You're just going to sit home and rot.
So Henry's all pissed off. And he says that Elmer was supposed to rise from the coffin. And the voice says that Henry cheated and he must pay. And Henry just confesses right away. And then the voice tells him he needs to plead and beg, and so he does. Suddenly the coffin opens up, and Mickey pops out. And Mike can't believe it. It turns out he's holding hands with Mr. Schneider.
Hey, where you
Boom,
been,
big
bud?
comeback for Mr. Schneider. He winks at the camera. And Henry's all pissed, and he tells Boris to seize them, which leads us to Monkees Romp, number only. I always say that, but there's only ever one now. I think at the beginning there was maybe
it's
two.
The romp one and then like a video one.
Yeah, it's going down, and which is a great romp song.
It's going down all right.
Yeah.
You know who's not down with this? Mr. Michael Nesmith, as he dips his way out right at the start of this romp. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. He like skips his way towards the door and leaves. It does not participate in the romping.
Well, now I can do the episode this time, but is there gonna be a romp in this one? That's where I think Mr. Nesmith here has a problem. I'm not doing the angel scene or the romp. All right, I'm gonna be in my trailer getting high. See you, boys.
If there's Emmys for podcasts, that's the clip right there.
The potties. Oh, that doesn't sound right. The potties. Maybe not. We'll work on that one. The boys run around the coffin. Chaos ensues. Peter and Davy pull like clothes off a clothesline. And so does Henry, who then chases them. Mickey opens up a weird door that looks like it's on a submarine or something.
Gonna pause real quick. We're in the Monkees' laundry room.
Oh.
So, A, the Monkees have a laundry room. B, they were just going to that laundromat for the bird.
Yeah, true. So when Mickey opens up this door, Henry is inside, and then Mickey takes off. Then we're back in the courtroom. Mrs. Witherspoon distracts Mickey, Mike, and Henry, and she stomps on all their feet. Mrs. W hits Henry with the gavel, another gavel, and he goes down, and then she hits Mike. Oh, so is Mike there for that?
He's in the gavel scenes because that was from
Oh,
the
of course,
gavel
that was
scene.
the gavel. Yeah, okay.
But in the room with the coffin, that romp, he's like...
Not there. He's hanging out with Elmer. So Davy and Mrs. W are dancing. Boris taps Davy on the shoulder, and then he dances with Mrs. W, and Davy pouts about it. Mrs. W, Henry, and Boris, they're in the boys' bedroom, and she's swinging on parallel rings. Like, those boys get crazy in there. They're like, gymnasts are going to bring in, like the parallel bars or something.
Damn.
And she keeps kicking Henry in the stomach over and over, and she's having a great time doing it. So the three guys are angels again, and now Henry's the fourth angel, and the boys freak out. Peter's playing a harp. Mickey and Davy just bounce around. Boris climbs in the coffin and closes it up. It opens up and turns off the lights, closes it again, opens up, and Henry's there with the lights back on. Then Mrs. W hops out, Boris hops out, then Davy, Mickey, Peter hop out. No Mike. Good call. And then they all get back in. And then they use the big long green thing that Mrs. W was knitting to wrap up Boris and Henry. And then they close them in the coffin. And that's the end of the romp. So with this romp, it is pushes the story forward a bit. Because that's how they catch the bad guys. So we got that.
Perfect.
So
this version of Going Down had some like reverb on it that was missing from the initial version we heard. I think when it opened with Going Down like a week or two ago. Yeah. And it's just him singing it. I think it's kind of a dry sound, but this one has like a reverb sound on it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely this was the the recorded version instead of that live version we heard last time with Mickey at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
So Mrs. W thanks the boys for helping her, and then she splits. The red phone rings, and Davy answers it and tells Mickey it's the Boy Scouts, and they want to give him an officer's commission. As he passes the phone down, Mike says that Mickey really did great at playing the trumpet. And Peter says that Mickey should play horns in the group. And it's like, oh yeah, they're a band. Remember that? They're a band. And Mickey grabs the phone. He says, but he doesn't play the horn. And then the trumpet is heard, and the coffin is opening up with an arm holding a trumpet. And the boys say, the coffin. And then they all start coughing. And I really thought it was going to be Mr. Schneider pulling one over on him.
Come on.
I thought it was going to open up.
So does this mean like Mickey removed the body earlier before he hopped in the coffin, or he was on top of the body? Like,
That's a good That's a good question. Maybe that's
Did
what
he
Mike was
put
doing.
it back later to be scared by it later when it starts this horn thing? Let's have another song, please.
Yeah. I don't. What a nightmare.
And then now we have Daydream Believer, and I'll have to check it out. Maybe we'll talk about it next episode or next time Daydream Believer comes up, because I think it comes up a bunch. It kind of does what I'm a Believer did last time, and like it's on the show a bunch. It also does pretty okay on the charts.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's why they're also pushing Going Down so much. Like 2 episodes in a row, we've had some Going Downs.
It's pretty. I think they're just proud of that, and I think they want to just show off Mickey Dolenz.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of that with that.
probably. Yeah, that's a good call. Okay, so this episode, the Daydream Believers, it's the cool performance version of it in like the Rainbow Room. It's great. Like that's like a classic shot of those dudes, like Mike with those sunglasses on.
It's iconic.
Yeah, he's got that sweet suit. Like Mickey's hair's in full effect. Peter's looking awesome. Davey obviously runs that show. So yeah, it's, you can only say so much about Daydream Believer, for God's sakes. 'Cause
And Mickey's trying to just sort of steal the show a little with the tambourine stuff.
100%. Like a born ham. You can't, if there's a camera pointed at him, he's going off all the time. So for this episode, overall thoughts, boys treading water. Like the story of it is so loose and so slight that it's this is the first Monkees episode, I feel, chronologically anyways, they're shown, that is kind of just bonkers. Like they've had other ones that are like, oh, this is nuts, but this one, costume changes every scene. So much weirdness, jokes that are like, what? So I like it for that reason, that it's like, oh wow, this is the first like off the rails episode where the boys, you can kind of see they're getting to be like, okay, maybe because they were band for real now, putting out records and having hits and touring and shit. Coming back and doing the show was just like, oh man, I'd rather be making records than doing this.
Or on tour, yeah. This is like the second half of shooting season 2, and they were just on the road.
Yeah.
And yeah, they cut like 2 records in the last 6 months or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, we got this goofy show to do.
Yeah.
And
just
they barely mentioned that they're in a band. I don't think anybody touches an instrument except the horn, I guess. Does that count? Yeah.
Yeah. They don't even touch it. One good thing, Mr. Schneider appearance. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Another interesting thing, no guns.
Wow, Paco. There were no guns.
I think the Monkees are like, no guns in our house. You cannot bring guns in our house. And they didn't leave the house this
There's
episode.
a goon.
There's a goon.
No guns.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a goon with a gun. Sometimes there's goons, no guns. Sometimes there's guns, no goons. Today, goon, no gun.
Yeah. And you think Boris, I guess he's just so big, he didn't need a weapon. And Henry was just conniving weasel, so he didn't have weapons because he had Boris.
For real.
But I wouldn't have been surprised if Mrs. Witherspoon pulled out a gun at some point just to shoot something because she's ridiculous.
She should have had a purse with a little wine tap on it because she should have been Mrs. Weefers.
Yeah, that's true. Highlight of the show. I'm not sure, to be honest, because there's funny jokes, but nothing that really
nothing
stuck
really
it.
stands out. It's just and they're just hanging around the pad, and yet they're at the pad the whole time.
Yeah, they never leave it. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know what to say for that. Was there a Monkees ruse? Not really.
They didn't need to.
No. They're like the heroes of this episode. They're just trying to make sure she didn't get ripped off.
Yeah, I suppose.
Fourth wall break. Yep. There was some good fourth wall breaks. Best musical moment. I like Going Down in the, just also because Daydream Believer's coming back again so many times.
Yeah.
Going Down
for
for the romp was great.
But the post credit under theme, the spooky organ.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was good. I'm really glad they're sticking with that. It makes it a lot of fun.
Mixes it up. Yeah, it's fun.
And it gives you an idea of what the episode's going to be like.
Yeah, it sets the tone.
Yeah, if it's done with banjos, you know they're lost in the country.
Again.
Yeah. Classic Monkees moment. Isn't that dumb? People banging into each other and falling down. Gavels.
The whole courtroom thing is kind of a Monkees trope.
Yeah. Yeah. What wouldn't fly in 2021? Seems pretty basic. I don't think there's anything bad in this episode.
Rolling a coffin into your apartment still happens on a daily basis.
Still hilarious. All right, so we're in the Did You Knows now. And yeah, you can take it away with your Did You Knows. And if I have anything else, I'll throw it in.
Well, Ruth Buzzy, who is Miss Weatherspoon, she's kind of a iconic comedy lady over the years. She was in Laugh-In. She was on The Muppet Show. She was on Sesame Street when they expanded to Around the Corner. And her old lady character was kind of a thing already. And we get to see it here when she's like 30-ish. But it makes a pretty convincing old broad. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's pretty cool. And also she was on You Can't Do That on Television.
She's also in the Weird Al Gump video. She plays the old lady sitting on the bench with him.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
But yeah, she has 121 credits to her name.
Huh.
And just looking at her thing now, she was in a Sabrina the Teenage Witch episode. And the episode's from 1998, and it's called Goodwill Haunting.
Oh, boy. Always with the spooky shit.
Yeah, for real. George Firth, he played Henry. He has 96 credits to his acting career.
Ooh.
And he was in a lot of stuff, like he was in LA Law, Murder, She Wrote, Murphy Brown, all that those kind of roles, I guess.
But it was cool that he came back. Maybe Monty Landis wasn't available, so they just went down the list. And they got another previously employed asshole.
Played such a different character, like so much louder and so much in your face that I if you would have told me, and if I didn't look it up, I would have had no idea that was the same guy at all.
Oh, it's him.
You can't be serious.
I recognized him, and I knew it. It had to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up. This is because I didn't see it mentioned anywhere either. But I had a feeling that was that guy. Like, it was unmistakable.
Boris is played by Mickey Morton. He has 70 credits to his name, and the last thing he was on was actually Growing Pains in the
real?
80s. Yeah. So he was in the original Star Trek series. But I feel his biggest claim to fame is he played Mala in the Star Wars Christmas holiday special.
No shit.
Yeah. And one of the things that people hate the most, he was in that playing, I believe, a Wookiee named Mala. So Mickey Morton, Mickey Mala Morton.
Important stuff.
Yeah. And one more Did You Know to add that I found on the internet was it's the last episode with the green hat, supposedly.
The very last one. Yeah, well, sure.
Yeah,
we'll believe that once we're at the end of this. And we'll see if there's any more hats. There's got to be a hat in a song or two, but maybe they just mean in new shot episodes.
Yeah, I think that's what they mean,
see.
but we've read that before, so.
Yeah. Nice
Excuse
try.
me if my faith is a little wishy-washy. Oh, hey, what's that I hear? Everybody's second favorite half of the show. The Wool Hat of Mystery with the Randomatic Countdown.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. I'm going to go first this week.
Yeah.
And one thing we'll tell our listeners, I think I've mentioned this before, but there really is a green wool hat we pull these things out of.
It's a fact.
Even though no one can see it or anything, I make sure I'm pulling this out of a green hat. All right, so here it is. Let's see what we got here. Good, clean fun.
And this plane gets closer every minute I look down to a watch that keeps looking back at me. And it says to me, be patient, son, you've waited this long, but how can I be strong?
I feel like with this song, with that banjo going on, Peter heard it and was like, now you do the banjo. And another thing, when you hear the song stuff, it's got like that country bass, like boom, 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 boom. I was like, oh, see, this is where like the Monkees present / changes era bass doesn't get to shine. But then as the song goes on, that bass shines brighter than anything.
Oh yeah, it's like flying, man. It's a wicked bass line.
Amazing.
Every instrument is cooking.
Yeah, 100%. It's when it first starts off, you're like, oh, okay, a little Mike Nesmith countrified rocky kind of thing, whatever. But then the chorus is awesome. The melody of the chorus, it's sweeping and fantastic, and all the instruments are great. And yeah, no, it's a sneaky one. So what I gotta admit, when I pulled it, I was like, ooh, good, clean fun. And then when I heard it, I was like, oh wait, no, I don't know why I connected bad vibes with this one, but
and don't forget, Paco, this song opened the show, and when we saw the Mike and Mickey show in Toronto.
That's true.
And Mike said, I told you I'd come back, and here I am. His first time back since like the 60s. Yeah,
that's what he said. Yeah, the crowd went crazy. I remember at that point, that was my first tear up moment. I was like, how am I going to get through this show?
So yeah, that moment alone probably earns it a few spots on the countdown.
Yeah, while we were listening to it, I was looking at the countdown, like where it can fit in, and it feels like it's like a pretty high one, I'd say.
Just how high, Paco?
Well, from what I'm looking at here,
this is a countdown that needs a little touching up, considering we have Gonna Buy Me a Dog 5 spots up higher than words.
Every time I see that, it's like ice cream on a cavity. It's like, dude, Jesus.
There was just the one weekend where we shot that episode. I think we just loved Gonna Buy Me a Dog more than we ever had for some reason.
I also think it was one that snuck in high, and just other things were looking at other ones and kept putting stuff below it. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah,
what are you doing here?
So anyway, good, clean fun. Above or below, Gonna Buy Me a Dog.
Where is Gonna Buy Me a Dog?
46, right behind it, Ryu Shiu.
Oh, okay. That's the area I was looking in. But I was going to say maybe right after Midnight and before Cripple Creek at number 54.
All right. Let's pop it in there. Good, clean fun is our new number 54. Here on the Randomatic Countdown, the Podcast Valley Sunday. Pass that hat over here, Paco. Let's see what I got here today. And wouldn't you know it, it's no time at all.
Woo!
See the rapper, Homer Solvin, what did you expect? No time for you. No time at all. I got no time, baby, got lots of better things to do. No
Time by the Monkees. Kind of a rock and blues jam that they came up with together, and they credited to their engineer, Hank Cicalo. It's just kind of a tip for doing the job. And he used his royalties to buy a house.
Wow, good for him. Very smart.
For real.
Man, if he still has that house, I bet you it's millions of dollars.
It's good to have a house. It keeps the wind off you.
One thing with this song, man, you can hear them like having a great time. That's with any Headquarters song, you can feel the awesome vibes coming from it.
Yes.
But that one especially, I would have loved to have just been there. Like they're singing the backups, they're playing everything, they're out there being a real band coming from TV, and it's a fun listen every time.
Like think back to that first year or so of being actually good at playing music.
Yeah.
And it's a fun feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, when you can actually play with people and get through a song, and it sounds like, like you're saying, it sounds like real music. Music
is its own reward, folks.
True.
Make no mistake. If you get a chance to pick up an instrument, pick it up. It's a good time. But back to No Time by the Monkees. Like a lot of references, like there's a little bit of Bill Cosby here, a little bit of Andy Warhol there.
Mm-hmm.
And another mind, furthermore, the plea is self-defense, which comes up in, what's it, Zilch? Also from this
Yep.
album, but it's also a line from the musical Oklahoma.
Oh, there you go. I don't think I knew that.
So facts aplenty here, but with no time from, yes, as mentioned, Headquarters, kind of a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. So where do you think this would fit on the...
Oh, you know what? I'm going to put it right above Gonna Buy Me a Dog, where I thought we were going to put the other one. Our new number 46 is No Time by the Monkees.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
You really hear Davey on those backups, though.
Definitely. I was going to say that I really love when you can hear their backups.
Yeah. I love stuff like that. When you can pick them out, and also like the studio chatter, which you can hear some there.
Yeah.
And like in between the singing, you hear like a little muttering and stuff. It's just studio fun. And especially for the Monkees, it's just part of the whole fun, part of the experience.
100%. Yeah. All right, let's see if the hat's going to be good to us again all day.
Man, oh man, the hat is on a roll.
All right, I got something here on my delicate phalanges. Oh, wow. Band 6.
Oh, what the heck?
That was a little too long. I think you got it now, Mickey.
Bam. 40 seconds of awesomeness.
That's right. Band 6, which I'm sure you'll agree, barely qualifies as music. But in it, the Monkees invent hardcore punk rock by way of the Merry Melodies theme song, I guess it's supposed to be. And whatever. They're just messing around. And I'm sure they had hours of this kind of thing on tape.
Well, just like what you were saying just a second ago, like the studio chatter, the hanging out, the having a good time. This is exactly what that is. Like, Band 6 is that.
Yes.
It's that weird inside joke, funny nonsense you do when you're in a band. Just cast it off. But for them, they recorded it and put it on record.
Because they could.
Exactly, which is awesome because they could. Because it's Headquarters and they were in charge of the shit.
Yeah, it's hard to get perspective on it. This is 1967. This is rock and roll is still very new, very business, very sterile.
Yeah.
They're just fucking around.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And honestly, as we were listening to No Time and to this, I started thinking, and I never thought about this before, but what do you think if the Monkees were dudes who were actors and wanted to be actors instead of being in a band and just played with Kirshner when he's like, this is what you do. Here's your records. This is what you put out. And I'm like, yes, sir. Yep. We'll do that. And the entire Monkees was just this, what they were intended to be from Kirshner's point of view. What would that have become, I wonder?
I don't know. The Partridge Family, maybe?
Maybe. I was going to say, maybe they'd have more hits, but wouldn't have interesting music like they do.
They might be hits, but they would have been jellies.
100%. And chances are we wouldn't be having this podcast or talking about them.
We wouldn't give a fuck about that terrible show.
Or the crappy music they put.
The Monkees? Are you kidding me? Forget about it.
It'd be like how when you tell somebody who doesn't know anything about the Monkees, you like the Monkees. Like, what the? Hey, we're the Monkees? We'd be those people when someone says how great they are.
Paul Revere and the Raiders. That's music.
Yeah. I'd be a Mike Nesmith in a Danny Partridge world.
Wow. Our first bumper sticker.
That was one of their names, right? Yeah.
Danny Partridge. Yes, Danny Bonaducci's character, yes.
Yeah. Who was the pretty guy? What was his name?
David Cassidy played Keith Partridge.
Keith Partridge. Yeah, see, I don't even know his name. I know it was David Cassidy.
A.K.A. the pretty guy.
The pretty guy. All right. So where do we put Band 6 in this mishmash of stuff?
Because I think the baseline of this is, would we grab it? Would we put it on? And maybe we do stick it on the end of a mixtape. We got 40 seconds left to fill it up. Maybe, but it feels weird putting it too high.
But like, would you listen to Magnolia Sims or would you listen to this? 'Cause they're similar in their weirdness.
See, okay. You know what? In between Diddy Diego and Whole Wide World, that's where we're gonna put Band 6, our new number 73 on the Randomatic Countdown.
Perfect. So I gotta say that the Wool Hat of Mystery did not disappoint. Like, they're all pretty radical tunes.
Yeah, man.
It picked up the slack for this episode.
A little bit. But hey, it's always a good time.
It really is. Well, everyone, we're going to sign off, I guess. If you guys thought these should be in different spots, like, let us know where you feel Band 6, Good, Clean, Fun, and No Time should go in this countdown.
Mm-hmm.
And and we'll read it and say, nah.
You want to write an angry letter about gonna buy me a dog, me bad-mouthing it? You can do that too. We can take the hit. It's all good.
Yeah. Some people just really want to buy dogs more than other people.
True.
All right. So, from me, Paco.
And me, Jeff.
Have yourselves a Monkees little evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.